I'm Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a price for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Lazy Booking. No, it's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
Welcome to another edition of Lazy Booking here on A2DRadio.com, brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants, located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. You can give them a call at 215-369-3300. Hey, guess what? Tax season, it is here, so be ready, be prepared, get Gibson Mayer.
There it is, Matty. I'll tell you, I love it. A little paper slam, and we're ready to roll here.
Coming in hot.
Coming in hot. Guys, we are back. Lazy Booking on A2D. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, but we are back. Obviously, we wanted to pay respect to the Eagles' Super Bowl title parade. Last week, we had some sickness. We had some work issues.
Well, we always have sickness.
No, you're right.
maybe we're going to change that to illness.
Illness. Yeah, because we're some sick bastards.
We are some sick bastards.
But I know Ryan was a little under the weather a couple weeks ago. You guys had some work issues, so we took a couple weeks to refresh, charge the batteries, get ready for the road to WrestleMania, and we're going to open up with that poll question from Scanzano Sports, ScanzanoSports.com. What is your reaction to Ronda Rousey's arrival in WWE? I'm jumping out of my seat. She took away from Asuka's moment. Who cares? She's lost all credibility to this point. Or I'll wait and see how everything plays out. Chime in on Facebook, YouTube. We're on Periscope tonight, guys. Twitter. Jump in. Share your comments. Share any other things that you guys want to talk about.
MySpace, AOL.
MySpace.
The Commodore 64. You name it, we're on it.
Guys, I am available. If anybody's looking for a new number one on your top 8, guys, I'm available. So.
Oh.
There we are.
But we're back, guys. I missed you guys. I haven't seen you in a while, and I did want to note. Unfortunately the parade kind of screwed things up, but we were going to have Mark Angel and Jimmy Lyons last week as an interview, and they totally understood with the parade going on.
They were probably there too.
Yeah. So we pushed that back. We're going to hopefully have them on in the near future. And I appreciate those guys for taking time. So. Guys, we're back. Let's jump in and catch up a little bit because we've missed a couple of weeks. We were all there for the Royal Rumble. So let's just hit the high points. Let's talk NXT real quick. And really, Adam Cole and
Baby.
Adam Cole, baby. And Aleister Black, that was I thought it was a great match for what it was expected because, again, we always talk about how hardcore matches can be gimmicky. But I enjoyed what they did, and obviously I don't think that's the end of the story. I think that's going to continue on.
Agreed.
Down the road. I think Aleister Black's probably getting primed for the push for NXT New Orleans WrestleMania weekend. But I think, let's be honest, the match that stole the show, is it the only 5-star match that NXT has had?
No.
On the Meltzer?
Oh, on the Meltzer scale, but I think it's debatable. But we'll get into that.
I mean, and that's a conversation to have. Is this the greatest match in NXT history between Andrade Cien Almas defending his title against Johnny, Mr. Wrestling Gargano?
Well, before you go there, and I'll let Matty address that one first, I want to give a shout-out because as crazy as this is going to sound, and I know there's some people in the audience that know this is coming and will probably laugh at me anyway, my new favorite in NXT, and it's not even close right now, is Velveteen Dream.
Velveteen Dream's amazing.
I absolutely love what Patrick Clark is doing with this gimmick.
He's so over.
And the guy works his ass off. Like if the people remember him from Tough Enough, which was, God, has to be almost 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
From where he was as a contestant or a competitor on Tough Enough to where he is now. I mean, the guy is absolutely head and shoulders like ridiculous. And to your point, insanely over. And I love the entrance with the music that is like kind of like a little bit funk, a little bit Prince, a little bit kind of he's just going to strut down the aisle, and then the entourage waiting for him with the
it's fantastic.
with the custom mouthpiece and stuff like that. I think this guy, with the match that he had at TakeOver Houston against Aleister Black,
that feud was awesome.
The feud was awesome, and I think that match really put him on the map.
Absolutely.
And I think his match at TakeOver Philadelphia, while it wasn't top of the card, it was certainly top of the card worthy.
I actually believe that feud between Black and Velveteen Dream was voted the NXT Feud of the Year, if I'm not mistaken on that. And you talk about two characters who are complete contrasting opposites there.
Yeah.
And it was just, in a weird way, he was almost the perfect foil to Aleister Black's very stern, very kind of dark and mysterious character, ass-kicking character, He bought the you will say my name.
Right.
And he did.
And he did.
That was what was beautiful, to kind of tie the bow on top of it. What did
you
think, Matty?
So I didn't mean to deflect from the question. So I'll let Matty take the Almas Gargano question first.
Yeah.
Well, the Almas Gargano match, that was that was unbelievable. Like they pulled out all the stops for that matchup, and that was just I really thought Gargano was going to win. Like, I honestly thought it. And it's just like they've made this way too many hope spots for there not to be a Gargano victory. But surprisingly, they did not pull the trigger on it. They decided, nope. I guess maybe they're thinking of bringing Gargano up, so that's why they're not going to give him the belt. But they kept it on Almas, and Almas actually made a surprise appearance in the Rumble too. So it lasted a long time to go.
A lot of
with
surprise
it.
NXT appearances in both men's
and
women's.
and it's interesting because when I saw him come into the Rumble, my immediate reaction was, that's his reward for working his ass off the previous night. And the fact that he stayed in as long as he did was a great sign. I'm not going to lie. I completely marked out when he came out with the La Sombra get-up on and went total like Lucha for his entrance. The problem that I had with the match was, with him having...
It was too perfect?
It's not even that it was too perfect, that it was too predictable. The fact that he has Zelina Vega with him, and then they immediately, at the beginning of the match, show the shots of Candice LeRae in the audience.
Right.
Well,
that's going to happen.
You immediately go, well, there's the setup for the women to get involved, and then you just find yourself for the entire match waiting for that to happen, and I think that actually took away from the viewers paying attention to what really was a phenomenal match, because you just kept waiting for the interference.
Well, the weird part of it is, too, with that counter to the interference of the valet, you would think that would be like the ultimate sign of, okay, the valet's been taken out of the equation, so it's going to be obvious now Gargano's going to win, because the easy way out and the cheating way out is going to be negated.
Good point.
You would think that, because that's usually how that works a lot of times.
See, I think I didn't think that took away from anything. I think that's something people wanted to see. You gave the people and to me also, that's a great way for people who really maybe didn't watch the Mae Young Classic, who really don't know a lot about Candice LeRae. It's a good opportunity to introduce her to the audience on that kind of a grand scale there, because there's no doubt in my mind that Gargano is going to be coming up. To me, it was I wasn't surprised, or I was surprised by the ending.
I think it may have played out a little differently with you being there, than me watching that at home.
But I thought that Gargano was going to win, and then I thought, well, maybe Almas will win this match, but I didn't expect him to win. By all intents, I'm using the word lightly, but clean,
right?
In a sense of, I actually thought that Ciampa, and again, I wasn't sure where he's at as far as his rehab, but even if he was hobbling out there on a crutch some way, whatever he was doing, I expected Ciampa to maybe interfere in that and cost Gargano if Gargano lost.
And I could see that happening as well, yeah.
So, we still got Gargano, Ciampa, just in a different form. And again, it's kind of like the whole, I'm not ready yet, but don't forget about me thing.
Right.
And I actually believe that there's a good possibility when they finally do have that feud, it's on the main roster instead of NXT.
Well, I think they could be saving that
SummerSlam
for 205 Live to really give that division a much-needed boost.
They could.
Which is the reason why you don't give the belt to Gargano, because then he would have the responsibilities of being NXT champion.
Yeah, and I'm loving what CN's doing now. I mean, the guy is just, he's on a whole other level. Ever since the first Gargano match at NXT Brooklyn, he has been, and that was a freaking match of the year candidate at the Lazies.
Well,
they succeeded. They clearly went past what that expectation was.
To answer your question, for me personally, if I had to rank it all time, and obviously we're only talking about matches that are televised, but I would say for me personally, it's a great match. It's probably the third best match in NXT history for me.
So what do you put above it?
For me, I'm going back to the first NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, and I'm going Balor Owens ladder match and Sasha and Bayley.
I don't know that I agree. I actually thought that the Balor Owens ladder match was a bit of a disappointment.
Did you really?
I wouldn't put it in a sense that I wouldn't put it in a classic all-time NXT caliber match. To me, the match of that night was clearly Sasha and Bayley. I would even put the four-way women's match that they had previous to that. I don't remember which takeover it was, where it was Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, and Bayley, which was a phenomenal match.
Well, if you really, really want to dial back to the early days of NXT, you had the Cesaro and Sami Zayn 2 out of 3 falls.
I would put that over. I would put that over Owens and Balor.
I don't know that I would go that far, but if you want to, I'm certainly not going to fight you on it. I think people have certain guys that they like, and they tend to favor those matches a little bit.
I don't love Zayn.
Getting back to the issue at hand, though. Was it an absolutely phenomenal match? Yeah, it was. And for me, it may have been the best match of the entire 4-night stretch that they were there.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point and a fair view of it. For me, it may very well be. I would have to go back and watch a couple of other matches that I would put close to that. But off the top of my head, I can't think of another match. And again, I hear what you're saying with the TV. I went back and watched it to get the television perspective because I wanted to see how it came off on TV. And I thought it was just as freaking fantastic on TV. That crowd was crazy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think we can safely say, though, it's the best NXT match so far of the year.
Oh, easily.
That's the measuring stick for the rest of the year.
Well, yeah. They blew their load pretty early on that one.
Yeah. Realistically, you could probably say it's the best match that NXT has produced since Nakamura went up to the main roster.
Yeah.
I think Black and Velveteen from Houston was close. But
that was a pretty great match.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say for me, if I'm projecting where things go from here, I think you get Aleister Black probably taking the title, and Almas will be up by SummerSlam. And then I'm thinking that NXT TakeOver will be Black and Cole once again. Just if I'm seeing how I'm viewing things playing out at this point.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
Yeah, I'm going to be intrigued to see where they go as far as the women's title because I think it's very open right now. I know they're big on Blazer or whatever. I don't get it. That was rough.
If there was a drain for charisma, she would be it.
Yeah.
I understand that WWE as a company has a thing for legitimate MMA fighters because they want to bring some legitimacy to the product. But she's horrible. She's just straight out horrible. And it's not her ring work. It's just everything else around.
Well, I just felt like
she needs a manager then.
Well,
that's what she really would need.
I don't think she's that bad on the mic at this point. She's green. She's going to need to work. Technically it's supposed to be developmental, but the in-ring work is brutal for me. And
well, what did I text you that night? I was like, these moves that look like they're supposed to hurt, they don't look like they actually do.
Yeah. Well, like the arm bar that she essentially had her in. I don't know. It came off real. I didn't watch that back on TV. I couldn't subject myself to it again, but I thought it came off really poorly and sloppy.
Ember tried as best she could to make that look effective.
And well, it's not even that it did or didn't look effective. It was just a really weird spot that went on for way too long to the point where you're like, all right, when we get the point. She's battling through it. And that was like a 4 or 5 minute straight freaking spot where she's got her in this armbar, and I just to me, and then right after that, it was just a very uneventful finish to the match.
Well,
it was like, oh, okay, I guess the match is over now.
The biggest issue that you run into, especially with submission experts in the pro wrestling world, is you got to be careful with them because either they're going to be really boring or they can be exciting if they can lock the move in at like the most unopportune time, and you're like, oh crap, the match is over.
I just felt like, and I just felt like it could have been more effective if they cut the time in half on it. But it was just, it went on for so long.
It did, and then the roll-up seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go to a roll-up out of the armbar like that, it's got to be a 2 count and a kick out and, break the hold. And then if you want to go to the finish immediately after that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you can't go right from the armbar to a roll-up finish with no transition and not have it kill your champion's heat and make the challenger look like she just got beat at her own game.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I did take away from it was clearly that match wasn't supposed to be any kind of a climax, and the match necessarily wasn't the important part to take from it. Clearly, it was what happened after the match. It was more of a let's position for the next face-off. So,
well, I think that was the first time they were facing in the ring too.
Right.
So that's another problem. They've never wrestled together before, so you always run that risk.
Yeah, a couple here on Facebook. Edwin says, "Who cares?" Talking about Ronda. What up, Ed? Christopher Youngflesh. Is that your real name, Christopher? I'm just curious.
If it is, awesome.
It's a crazy last name. It's awesome if it is. They have to hype her up just like they did with Lesnar. Brian Brodo. Hey, Brian.
Hey, man.
Brian Brodo over here on the ones and twos says, I'll wait and see what happens. Frank Vespi says, see how it plays out. Part of me thinks the WWE will give her a title shot for an overbooked WrestleMania match.
I wouldn't.
No.
No, I was going to say I wouldn't disagree with that. I could very easily see the Rousey just, her big splash right out of the gate is a title match at WrestleMania.
Well, if she gets it, she's got to win the title. She can't lose it.
But even if they put her – but see, here's what they could do. They could do the same trick they've been doing with Lesnar is they could put her in a triple threat match, have her look dominant, and then by some weird quirk have her get knocked out of the ring or something, and the decision or pinfall or finish, whatever, happen while she's on the outside.
Well, I mean, this could lead into one thing. I mean, you have Nia Jax facing Asuka at Elimination Chamber. Asuka will probably win somehow, some way, and continue her undefeated streak. The thing then you go into is if you kind of shoehorn Rousey into a matchup between Asuka and either Bliss or whomever, then you could have Nia Jax come out and do a run-in on Ronda and just be angry that Ronda's getting all the attention. She got eliminated from the matchup altogether at WrestleMania. I mean, that's just a throw-in of an idea out there of why they would do Nia versus Asuka and not put Nia in the women's elimination chamber.
But see, here's the weird thing for me is they've been spending so much time setting up this Nia versus Alexa match. So if we want to assume that the Raw side is going to be Nia versus Alexa, then it kind of leaves the SmackDown side to be Charlotte versus Asuka. Well, then how do they even shoehorn Rousey in there? I mean, because they're going to have to somewhere. I mean, unless like you said, they go to the tag match with,
a lot of hot rumors with Hunter and Steph versus Dwayne and Ronda. And I think that's I think one of the things we said before we went on is, we don't know. You were talking about, Matty, how they're kind of stepping on their own toes as far as what they're saying on the air with the Asuka situation.
Yeah.
It's like already determined she's going against the Raw champion, but then maybe not.
And then just dropping the female elimination chamber right smack dab in the middle of Asuka's moment on Raw. Literally the very first thing they did on Raw, too. I was like, wait a minute. Don't you just want Asuka just to say something and then let everybody know that?
Well, Asuka can't say a lot. So.
Well, I get that, but she could easily just say nobody's ready for Asuka, and then after that, Stephanie could then announce it then, but she just decided to do it before Asuka talked.
Right.
And I'm like, Why would you do that? That's just so strange. Like, where did that segment arrangement come from?
Well, I just think the idea is, it's poor talking. But again, I think we all were in agreement that I don't think they have a total idea of exactly what direction they're going to go. No. And was it Ryan, I think, who said they're probably going to sit back and wait, see the reaction of the Elimination Chamber, and then make a decision from there. I don't think it's going to have to do with how she's going to be in the ring. I think they want to see what the crowd reaction is going to be, and then make a decision from there.
Well, I think it's multiple things. I think, number one, it is crowd reaction because, she could easily flop with it because, it depends on the crowd. The crowd could see her as a complete outsider, as a UFC, someone that just jumped right in, and it completely backfire, and then their hands are tied. And it could also be, which I'm most worried about, if she gets into the wrong situation as far as a storyline, and then she's not that great in the ring, because everyone knows that if she's just lackluster in the ring, the crowd's not going to really give her any passes because she decided to make the jump. It wasn't our decisions to have her come over. It was her own.
Right.
So, and she's obviously going to be getting the spotlight more than everyone else, given we saw the ending of the Rumble. My whole thing, the thing we touched on before the show, was surrounding the whole tag match scenario. To where I believe it was you, Mike, that said, well, we have to see if they get Dwayne to be in that match.
Yeah.
And
well, interesting point to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to read these. You'll finish your point, and then we're going to hit the couple on YouTube. Daniel Bakley, we were talking about with NXT, and then with the Rousey thing, says, Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne just had an awesome match. Did anyone see it? I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either.
If it's on the network,
we will.
Give me a holler. Let me know where I can find it, and I will definitely watch that because I love Pete Dunne and Rod Strong. And then he says Lars will be pushed to the moon, I think. I think he's going to get a push. I don't get it. It's other than the fact of his size. That's like a Vince guy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, whatever. If he is, he is. NXT is in a position now where they have some really good figurehead guys, but I think we'll be up by the end of the year. This is a time to start experimenting with some of these other guys who are on the fringe, like a Lars who has potential. And let him kind of work it up now so that by the end of the year when it's time to do call-ups, and call-ups are coming after WrestleMania, then he can fill in a role. But he says it is on the network, he says apparently Rousey could be teamed with Braun versus Hunter and Steph if The Rock doesn't have time.
That makes sense because they've
Survivor
built that
Series.
up since Survivor Series.
Absolutely, which honestly before a lot of the whether they're leaked or whatever rumors that have been out there on dirt sheets with Hunter. And I don't think Hunter and Angle's happening now.
No, I don't think so.
No.
either.
Well, this is what I was going to bring up, though, and I'm glad. Who said Braun Strowman?
Daniel Bakley.
Daniel Bakley brought this up because I was going to say on the point we were talking before the show on, they're waiting to see if they can get Dwayne, to see if they can, finally start solidifying this tag match between Hunter and Steph and Ronda and Dwayne. Well, there's three ways they can go with it as far as a partner for Ronda. Number one, it's Dwayne. Number two, it's Strowman. I really don't believe it's Strowman, given I really think they're going to go Braun versus The Miz.
And
I
don't love that.
I will see. I'm open to it.
I think we'll talk more of that when we get into
and
Mania
the
later,
the third thing is Kurt Angle. Because they did hint at Kurt versus Triple H with the son, obviously.
It's a way to do it.
I honestly think there's a lot of ways to go with it. That's why I think the most likely scenario for Ronda is the tag, given they have all of these options.
See, I think this is one of those weird times where they've planted so many seeds that they don't know which vegetables to pick first.
No.
And if they do pick certain ones, are they going to be ripe?
Well, I think in fairness, too, to us, though, that's a good thing. 'Cause
It
it's
is
always so predictable.
Normally, yeah. Normally, yes, I would absolutely agree with that, but I think right now it just turns the whole thing into a big schmoz.
Well, I think the thing is, though,
It'll play itself out.
What I think they did is they're probably the writing team already put so many things out there. They probably have to just take a step back. Okay, what did we put out there, and what have we already hinted at? We need to figure out, okay, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? It feels like they don't have the structure set right now of like, okay, we're going to do this then, we're going to do this then, we're going to do this then.
Yeah, to me, it feels like they're just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, and we'll see what sticks. But let me go back to Rousey for a second. To me, when she didn't enter the Women's Rumble, because once it got into like the 20s, and those countdowns started, and every time someone new came out and it wasn't her, you could kind of tell that there was like an air in the building of sort of like, okay, well, you know, is she or isn't she? Is she or isn't she? And then it gets to 30 and Trish comes out, and then no one's expecting her to be there. So then when she comes out after the match, I think the initial shock of seeing her, like I think once that wore off, I think a lot of people kind of shit on her being there.
Well, she already got heat with like a lot of the female wrestlers in the back. They had already were upset about the fact that she's immediately getting slammed into a spot that they would have rather have had, and they also felt like she was kind of taking away from the historical moment of Asuka winning the first ever Women's Rumble. I mean, obviously, it's already been what I think Charlotte said something about it. Sasha was not going to say something about it because she said she had nothing nice to say, so she wasn't going to say anything. A lot of people were not happy with the fact that Ronda just showed up at the end of that match, kind of took the moment away from Asuka a little bit, and then to add on to it, now she's kind of being hyped up as, okay, she's going to do something bigger than what any of the female wrestlers are going to do at WrestleMania.
Well, and here's what I want to know. If she supposedly didn't arrive in the building until after that match was underway and she didn't sign her contract until 5 minutes before she appeared, how did the people that were in the ring already or already at ringside know how to act?
Yeah.
Like, somebody had to know something was going on. And granted, Charlotte and...
Oh, I think they knew.
I mean, Charlotte and Alexa are sitting at ringside with Stephanie. So I'm sure there's probably some communication in the headsets of, you know, Ronda's here, it's a go, there's going to be a stare down, don't make a move, you know, whatever. But Asuka's in the middle of the Rumble. Like, how does that get communicated to her? I mean, was the offer of the handshake and her just slapping the hand away, was that a real thing, or
no? I think that was all.
How do they set that up?
They probably sat the women down and said, "Hey, listen, you know,
Ronda
may or may not show up," and they probably did that. They probably did.
I don't think there was ever a question. I think the right people knew that Ronda was going to be there, and I don't think there was an issue. Is she not? You know, I think we're looking at it too realistically here.
And
I think we knew that Ronda was going to be there, or the people knew that Ronda was going to be there, the company, and then it was a only who needs to know basis, which is those three women in the ring. That's the three women ahead of time who had to say, "This is where we're at. When you win, you stay in the ring. We're going to have it set up like this, and this is what's going to happen."
What's going to happen?
I'd say, to me, it's clearly that.
Well, David Roska, actually, to piggyback off of the Women's Rumble, chimed in here on the YouTube saying, "What's up, boys? Mandy Rose should have been her hashtag first ever Women Royal Rumble winner." He is so marking out for Mandy Rose.
He wants her to be the first winner. Wasn't she the first loser?
Actually, yeah, I think she was the first
one
eliminated.
I thought she was the first one eliminated.
And you know what? Guess who got the first elimination too? Lita. That's the funny thing.
That's crazy.
She got the first elimination in that Rumble.
Roscoe chimes in on every show, whether it's a wrestling show or not, about Mandy Rose.
About Mandy Rose.
I was on two shows last night, and on both of them he chimed in about Mandy, and I love it, David. Keep bringing it,
on the one point you made, Mike, about Asuka's kind of slapping Ronda's hand away.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, to oversimplify it, that's exactly what her character would do.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely. It didn't surprise me when it happened. I was just kind of like, how did because just all of the reports, but because I mean it was mainstream. It was TMZ, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, all of these mainstream media outlets reporting that she wasn't in the building. They didn't even bring her into the building until the Women's Rumble was well underway. No one knew she was going to be there, et cetera, et cetera. She was filming a movie in Mexico, and when they flew her into the States, they didn't even fly her directly to Philadelphia. They flew her somewhere else and then brought her in on WWE's private jet. They sent her husband home to California. I mean, there was so much like byplay there that, to me, maybe it was like a successful suspension of disbelief. But I was just sitting there like, okay, so she's here. How did they do all of this if she really wasn't in the building?
Well, I mean, also the fact, too, is that they probably – Ronda, whether she grew up a fan or not, she had to have known that, some wrestlers will either do an improv, which is a shoot, and then they will just immediately do something that their character would do because it's just like, I gotta stay in character. I can't break kayfabe right here in the middle of the ring. Although they did that to announce the first Rumble match. So
Keith Daly says, disregard my comment. Forgot the booking with Nia Jax. I didn't see your first comment though, Keith. It didn't show up on here. So.
Quick,
it's already disregarded.
Yeah.
But
real quick, though, when we were talking about Mandy Rose being the first one eliminated, and you said Lita with the first elimination, you guys know off the top of your heads who had the most eliminations?
Top of my head.
I'll give you a hint. It's not someone on the current roster.
Oh, was it
Michelle McCool?
It was
I'm trying to think of who I remember tossing people.
Michelle McCool
Undertaker.
had Mrs. Undertaker had 6 eliminations.
Did you hear the Undertaker chant?
Oh,
by
yeah.
the way? It was fantastic.
I'll be honest. I was chanting Undertaker too.
Oh, I don't blame you.
So was I.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Just as long as you're not chanting CM Punk.
Exactly.
I don't do that.
Admittedly, my biggest mark-out moment in the Women's Rumble was Vicky Guerrero.
Yes.
I did too.
I thought
I
it was
loved it.
It was
I loved it.
absolute hilarity.
And I'm glad you said that because I was going to ask you guys. I had planned on asking you guys like who was like the biggest surprise because like we talked before, the week before, like we knew Kelly was rumored. We kind of expect maybe there was a Tori Wilson. We knew Jackie was around given the the 25th anniversary. Molly Holly was her name was being thrown out there to where like I remember thinking on the 25th anniversary when they did like the general manager's segment and they didn't have Vicky Guerrero, I'm thinking to myself like that's weird. I guess she wants nothing to do. Like she's completely separated from it to where like my mind didn't even go there the night of the Royal Rumble because like I'm thinking to myself, well, she would of course have a segment on Raw because of the excuse me thing that she did for years.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest surprise for me, and it's funny that it's freaking Vicky Guerrero.
I'm going to read these comments because it's gonna follow into my next point in what you guys were talking about. So, Tom Arnone says, "Boys, I'll wait and see how things play out." LOL.
And I'm kind of in the same boat.
Daniel Bakley says, "Miz versus Balor at Mania. That's an interesting idea. We shall see." Mike, all right. So this was the one I showed you.
Oh, dear.
Mike Keane says, "Mike over here,
Dave,
talking about vegetables. Leave
Keane.
draws out of this."
Oh,
So wrong.
Oh,
So wrong, buddy.
Dave,
wow.
You know what? Dave's been in the ring. He gets a pass.
I know he does. That's just that.
It's a little rough.
Brian Attard says, "I really felt that they could not have had a worse way for Ronda to debut than that. Didn't work at all. Wasted opportunity." So here's to piggyback off of what we were talking about. The surprise for me was actually Trish Stratus. I didn't know where she was at as far as having the kids.
Oh, I agree with that.
And it totally wasn't there.
That was awesome.
And what they did is they've learned from Royal Rumble in Pittsburgh when Rey Mysterio got booed at 30. If you notice now, they're starting to make it, and unless it's Roman Reigns and they want that reaction, they're being very smart about this now. So people want, whether you love her or hate her, everyone expected Ronda. And I think there would have been disappointment if Molly Holly was running out there or, Alicia Fox.
Oh, no, you had to save the biggest surprise for 30.
But how do you counteract that and know you're going to get a huge pop? Boom. You bring in Trish Stratus.
Right.
Nobody expected to see Trish.
No.
Awesome opportunity there. Boom. I don't think this was a wasted opportunity by WWE, and this is why I say this. The reason is the next day, everything on every news outlet, whether it was ESPN, Fox.
The next day, it was more like the next hour.
Not even. 15 minutes later, it's on the ticker line of every channel. What is their lead-in stories? WWE and Ronda Rousey, boom, across every ticker bar. It's a lead-in breaking news story that's happening. And whether it's good or bad publicity, it ain't bad. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
From literally, and I joke you not, literally as Ronda Rousey is shaking Stephanie's hand on my television screen,
you get an update on your phone.
and it was literally it was the official breaking news announcement that she signed a full-term deal. Like literally as she's shaking her hand, it was perfect timing. And that's to your point, how big they made it.
So if anybody wants to sit there and say, listen, let's take our mark hats off for a minute and let's talk business.
Sorry, you want to talk business?
Okay?
Yeah.
Let's best for business. What it is, you bring a Ronda Rousey in, or when Brock Lesnar came back, or when you had Mike Tyson or Floyd Mayweather, whether it's a partial thing, whether it's an actual contract, whether it's an appearance, what do? You bring them on, and all the vultures are going to come and pick at it and try to be the first ones to break it and have the next breaking thing. Everything for a week was WWE and Ronda Rousey. So there could not have been a better way to plan that out. And you don't expose her in the ring.
Right.
Yet you build the anticipation. So to sit there and say that it's a wasted opportunity is a ridiculous view on this. And it drives me nuts when people cry about it. Come on, guys. You're in a multi-million-dollar publicly traded company, okay? If you don't like it,
did you do a show with
go
Tom
to the
Arnone?
Indies,
You did a
okay?
show with Tom Arnone last night.
I did. I'm in his spot. It's rubbing off. But I'm telling you.
It's the seat.
It's the absolute most ridiculous view on this that I've ever heard. And I hear people cry about it. Take your mark hat off and let's be smart. WWE was beating – and you're talking about the NFL playoffs are going on. You're talking about the NFL playoffs are going on. You have tight races in the standings competing for playoff spots in hockey, in the NHL, and in the NBA. And what's the leading story? WWE and Ronda Rousey. Boom. That's done.
Well, but to that end, though, there's a reason why Royal Rumble always falls the weekend between the AFC and NFC championships and the Super Bowl, because Vince wants to take advantage of that dead week, and they always hotshot something. Always. Whether it's, Ronda's debut or The Rock returning or whatever it is, something always happens at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So, Vince, for as much as people may hate on Vince these days because he's a dinosaur and, the business is passing him by and stuff like that, he gets the business side of it. That's not even a question.
And people can't sit at home and try and say that it's a wasted opportunity before they even did anything yet.
Right.
How about we wait until WrestleMania or until she gets in a ring to say wasted opportunity?
People are crying about her pointing at the fucking WrestleMania sign.
Like everyone does it.
Everyone points at
to the
when
WrestleMania sign.
When I go to a show, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, before WrestleMania, I walk into the arena and I take a picture pointing to the WrestleMania sign.
Like you won the
There's
Rumble.
nothing wrong with that, okay?
Well, what do you do when you get to the arena and you go in and the first thing you do is you look and you see, okay, where's the WrestleMania sign?
By the way,
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I know you guys were in the club, right? In the club seats.
He
I
was.
was in the club box, yeah.
I was downstairs.
I had nice,
downstairs.
comfortable, sweet seats.
I was kind of in the area that was like around that, and I was thinking like there better not be fireworks, or in other words, I'm going to be like, damn.
Now the pyro is out now. It's not in the budget anymore.
And honestly, when I saw, and yeah, she did a couple extra times pointed at the sign just in case no one saw her do it.
Right.
But like, my initial thought wasn't like, oh, that's stupid. It's like, oh, she watched the product. Like she's studying up. She understands.
If anybody saw the interview she gave after that, a genuine interview that I believe it might have been on ESPN, she legitimately got emotional.
Yeah.
It's a cool fucking moment, okay? I get it. Whether you love Ronda or you don't love Ronda, she is a hot name in the entertainment industry.
Well,
and she is an actual athlete. So, and people talk about, oh, well, hit her twice in the face, and she goes down. Well, guess what? Even if Ronda gets crushed in UFC now, she's still much more of a badass than all these other people that are booked. Okay?
It's true.
So let's talk real. Let's have real talk right now.
Well, hold on a second.
Let's have real talk.
If you want to draw that equation, did Brock Lesnar win his last UFC fight? No.
Well, he did.
No, he lost his title before he left.
Right, but then he came back and
but
won, but he juiced
all
up.
right, yeah, but all right.
Mike's talking about the one
I'm talking the
before
leg-
he came
the
back.
legitimate,
not the Mark.
No, you're
Yeah.
absolutely
thing.
right.
That
The
was
guy's
it.
got losses. He has losses. He lost to Mir.
Yeah.
He lost to Mir, and and what I thought was a pretty poor showing.
Yeah.
So let's be realistic, guys. Let's give the fucking girl a shot.
Let's be real for a second.
Let's give the girl a shot.
Here's the thing, though. Like, she not only is she legitimately excited. If you actually see her, she mouths the words, "I think I like this," and while she's walking back up the ramp. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, crap.
Agreed. And here's the thing. I mean, take it back to what we were talking about, very early on with Shayna Baszler. I mean, if she has half of Baszler's ability out of the gate, she'll easily have quadruple the charisma. And she'll get over based on the fact that she's got name recognition, she's got the reputation, and she's got the charisma.
Listen,
right there, if you're trying to position women MMA fighters in your organization, she's already 3 steps up.
Listen, you want to talk about planting seeds. The 4 horsewomen of MMA and the 4 horsewomen of WWE and NXT,
right.
that seed's been planted for a year and a half.
Right.
They've been building to this moment.
Since the Mae Young Classic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it happens at WrestleMania, but I absolutely think that Charlotte retains the title and you get Ronda and Charlotte at SummerSlam. I don't think there's a question in my mind. I don't think you're going to get it at WrestleMania.
I think that's only logical, though, because what better way to make a shitload of money, put Ronda Rousey in the ring in the largest media market in the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
that might main event that card.
It depends, though, because of the fact that, obviously, yes, she does have MMA training, so she has the ability. The thing is, though, she has to get trained in the wrestling style. So now the question is she going to be ready to work by WrestleMania? Now, obviously,
she's not hitting 5 stars on the Meltzer scale, but
I got you. But and also a lot's going to depend on who her partner in the ring is. I mean, it's going to depend heavily on who her partner in the ring is. So obviously, it makes sense to put her with Charlotte because out of all the women that you would want to put her in the ring with, Charlotte has clearly got to be number 1. She's the safest one to choose.
Kristen Gideon says, I'll wait and see how this plays out with Ronda Rousey's arrival in WWE. Not sure how I feel yet, LOL. Greg Malakovic. Greg, what up, bro? He says, I'll wait how it plays out, but interesting to see how they book her. Have fun, boys. We're having a fucking good time, Greg, right now. We're having family talk over here.
By the way, since we're talking about Mania, David Rosca chimed back, and he said, Mandy Rose versus Trish Stratus at WrestleMania 34. That's a squash match. I hate to say it, David.
Yeah, Trish is going down.
Yeah.
David Rosca, do you follow Mandy Rose's Snapchat? I want to know, because if you don't, bro, you need to. You can private message me, and I'll send you her handle. You need to follow Mandy Rose's Snapchat.
I'll tell you, that's one of the few times I think a lot of people wanted to be Goldust because he was her mixed match tag team partner.
That mixed match. Did you see that spot with them, too? With the
No.
teasing the kiss? Did you see
did they do that?
I saw it.
I haven't watched any of the mixed match challenge. It is on the network. I can go back and catch up on it. But I did see a clip of it. It was on Twitter. Somebody tweeted, and they did. It was them versus Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso and Naomi, and they did this whole thing where they were kind of going back and forth, and that's what teammates do. And then it was like, it was like a high five or we hug and this and that. So like, Jimmy and Goldust are going back and forth to the corners to their partners. It was like a comedy gimmick.
Yeah.
And then at one point, Jimmy Uso goes back and then he kisses Naomi, and then Goldust looks at her and like teases that they're going to do it, and then they start to go in, and then just as he gets this close, Jimmy Uso rolls him up in a small boy. It was awesome.
Man.
Oh, it was great.
Going back to the whole point about Rousey, though, and in the ring work, I was actually just trying to look. WWE just signed a new female trainer for the Performance Center. And the name was escaping me. I was trying to find it, and I couldn't. But I have to believe that it's not a coincidence. And I'm guessing that it's probably a situation where they need somebody to work exclusively with Ronda to get her ready for, whenever the debut is going to be. And clearly, Sarah Amato has a ton of women down there in the Performance Center that she's already working with. So, I mean, do they hire a trainer specifically to work with Ronda, or do they have, Sarah Amato and maybe Lita working with Ronda, and this new trainer just goes and works with everyone else? But to me, it wasn't lost on me that shortly after Rousey signs, they have to go and sign a new female trainer as well.
I mean,
it's an interesting point.
It is an interesting point. I mean, and you definitely want to go with the two veterans who have been in the business for so long and know it inside and out. Obviously, Lita and Sarah Del Rey are perfect examples. So you definitely want them to train Ronda because they can get her in good working condition. Like you said, not going to get the 5 stars in the Meltzer, but at least get her in good condition to where if she's in the ring with the right person, it looks like she could do it, so that way they can keep working with her and keep building her up to where, okay, now she can actually do more offensive stuff and more like spots, and then you can go there.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute. Is there a woman right now that you believe could actually carry her to an acceptable match?
I would say Charlotte. In my opinion,
I think there's a number of them.
Becky.
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 I don't know about Sasha.
But see, where I'm going with this though
Sasha.
is exactly. But that's kind of where I'm going. It's and Charlotte to me, for as much as I like
Asuka.
her, she's not her. But I don't know. Let me get this out real quick because we've all talked about this. Like Ric Flair could have a 4-star match with a broomstick, and he's had 3-star matches with his shoes and coat before. So we've seen these things. So I mean, we all know that there's a big difference between being able to hold up your end of a good match and carry someone else to a good match. And I just don't know that there is a woman in WWE right now that could take someone who is so super green and carry her to a good match. I mean, if you watch SmackDown on Tuesday night, you saw the trouble that Charlotte and Sarah Logan had for the first 3 or 4 minutes of that match. So take Sarah Logan out of that equation and put Ronda in there. I mean, it's going to have to be a brawl at the beginning for it to be believable as it then morphs into a wrestling match.
Well, listen, I mean, unless you're Bret Hart, because Bret Hart's the absolute most perfect human being on the face of the earth. Everybody has those kinds of nights. But listen, 9 times out of 10, Charlotte's going to be perfection with anybody in the ring. So I take the Sarah Logan, the issues they had to get out of the gate with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. They got it together. The match ended up being fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. To me, that's the names. That's the people right there. You talk, especially, I think Asuka's a perfect person because Asuka, you talk about that strong style in Japan. She's used to working with those kinds of situations with different type style competitors.
That's a great point because they do mix MMA with wrestling.
Yeah, but is
occasions.
Asuka going to be more interested in getting her shit in than carrying the match?
I don't think Asuka's like that at all.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, that's more
I
of
think
a personal question than necessarily.
See, what's crazy to me is
Dave Keane says Natty.
I was going to say I think
Natty
could do it.
That's a good nomination.
And realistically, for me, I think another person that could do it that will have no shot because of the injury is Paige. I actually think Paige could do it.
That's probably the 5. That's 5 to me. Charlotte, Becky, Asuka, Paige, Natty.
Yeah.
That's enough there.
That's enough, yeah.
That's enough to get her out of the gate and get her going.
Yeah.
Get enough reps under her belt. Take off Paige. That's enough.
That's still enough.
4. You could do each program's 2 to 3 months anyway. You can get a year's worth of programs out of those 4 women working with her.
Well, and by that point, she should be good enough to then be able to get out and do anything.
Yeah, plus also if
and
she
3 of the 4 are on SmackDown, so
right.
you can move her to SmackDown.
And if she gets individual training from like Lita, and she does get like hands-on, like she basically they formulate that match, or they get in their head and they've got it planned out and ready to go a month ahead of time. They can easily sit her down with Charlotte well ahead of time and say, hey, listen, this is how we can try this, we can try that. Lita can be right there showing her, okay, this is what we'll have to do this. To just simply formulate a match with someone who's never wrestled a wrestling match a day in their life and someone who just has naturally adapted to it for someone who was never going to be in the wrestling business at first.
So flip this and go the other way then. Who do you keep her away from? Because for me, I don't put her anywhere near Alexa.
No.
I don't put her anywhere near Sasha.
No.
I don't put her anywhere near Nia.
Not yet.
I would actually be okay with her working Bayley, but there's no way Bayley wins. I wouldn't put her anywhere near the Bellas, with them rumored to come back. So, it's. I think to your point, I think she's got to go to SmackDown because that's where the worker bees are.
And I mean, we're talking. I mean, listen, out of those 4, and listen, let's be honest here, and we're going to talk about it later in the show. with the rumor that all pay-per-views now are going to end up being co-brands at this point.
Yeah.
You could still work it where she can work regularly with the other three and then set it up where if her and Asuka are both champions on each brand down the road or Survivor Series. Because I do, again, this is my booking. I'm booking a year out or almost a year out.
Which is how you should do it. Japan does it.
Whoever Charlotte
WWE
faces.
does not.
Charlotte will not face Asuka at WrestleMania. Charlotte will end up retaining her title at WrestleMania. Hold the title to SummerSlam. Drop the title to Rousey. They'll do their program. And then they always have that Survivor Series where you saw it this year. AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar went against each other. You could easily do Ronda Rousey, Asuka. Boom. Two worlds collide. I'm booking it. It's done. Lock it down.
That's not lazy booking.
No. What does Tom say? Mark it down, guys. Somebody mark this point in here, and then we're going to play this back in August.
That would be crazy because you know what it would be? If Asuka wins and she stays undefeated for the entire year, it's just like undefeated streak versus what seems to be an unbeatable challenger.
That would just require way too much thought on the part of WWE. Though.
This is kind of true, yeah.
And we know they don't do that.
And listen, at that point, I mean, you could, even if you really wanted to, you could put Asuka over Rousey because she's been in there for 6 months at that point. It's an opportunity.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, what you were just talking about, with the pay-per-views going back to being co-branded. It'll be interesting to see how much longer the brand split actually stays in place as well.
Now, I think they've only officially announced that
it's
Payback is the first one, which
right.
I have tickets for that. I'm going to Payback. It's in
it's
in North Jersey.
Newark. Okay.
Yep.
Was it Payback or Backlash? I saw Backlash.
Maybe
is
it?
Yeah, I believe
you're
it's
right,
Backlash.
It's Backlash. You're right. It's Backlash. Either way, I got tickets for that too.
Attaboy.
I'm not going to Hawaii for the Pro Bowl. So, but listen, I think that we'll see going beyond that. I know that that's the first announced one. The rumors are that it's going to be a continuation going forward. Do we jump into it now, that question then? Is the brand split essentially dying with that?
I hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because I like the brand split, and I think that they could actually get some mileage out of it if they tease on these co-branded pay-per-views guys on opposite brands that want to get at each other, but they can't because they're not on the same brand. But then, when they do the what do they call it, the superstar shuffle or the shake-ups or whatever, and then all of a sudden, two guys who have been snipping at each other, on pay-per-views for the last 3 months, suddenly find themselves on the same brand, and whoop, here we go. That would actually be smart booking.
Dave Keene says they should have had her in a hood. Gives time to get some training. If she gets it, put her over at Mania and then unmask. If she doesn't get it, keep the mask on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got no issue with that.
Yeah, no, that would have been fine. I still think that they did it the right way. I mean, again, there's different strokes for different folks. When you talk WWE, you have to understand it is a big business. They have to make decisions and to get attention on the product. Again, you can't get any more attention than they got the way that they brought Ronda in.
You know what, though? There is a middle ground here between what you're saying and Dave's point.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You could totally.
That's not to him. That's just
but I mean,
a lot of the things that people have said.
I mean, if you think about it, though, NXT runs in Florida every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night.
Yeah.
They could have her working under a mask, jobbing out to every woman in NXT.
I agree with that. I absolutely.
Every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night just to get ring work.
I agree with that. But in fairness, though, everybody realizes and finds out with the internet age now. Everybody finds out who's under. You're taking way too much of a risk with a very high value commodity. It's a good concept. But you just
would work way better in scale. Works way better in 1987.
Yeah.
Listen, it works better in 1996. You can't do it now, and everybody needs to know everything, and we're the same way. We go and we need to know everything.
There's way too much social media, way too many dirt sheets, way too many of them.
And there's
I don't know though,
people
because
you
if
can
you
do
think
that with.
about it, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and you're not wrong. But, some woman in a mask wrestling in the Cocoa, Florida Armory on a Thursday night doing a job to Billy Kay. Unless...
And the people that go to those are the marks who are going to recognize these things.
Well, that's the thing, is that they would have to sneak her in and out of the building.
To me, you're talking about, Mr. America Hulk Hogan or the Blue Blazer Owen Hart. Like, somebody's going to know. We ain't dumb.
And here's the thing as well, and this is an extreme scenario. Say, for example, she gets injured in one of those matches. How are they going to explain that?
That's a huge issue.
There you
know
what
I mean? Because
you're
taking a high risk.
Because it also brings you back to who do you keep her away
Right,
from.
but she could also get injured in training, and you have to explain that.
That's true.
Dave Keane does say, I'm old, Dusty would have done it. And he's
absolutely right.
Listen, Dave, you're absolutely right. Listen,
Dusty
brother,
was the Midnight Rider.
I do not hate this idea at all. But the problem is now, with the age that we're in, Dusty would have did it in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
Dusty couldn't do it in 2018.
St. Jim Crockett
and not with the risk of running Ronda Rousey out there.
True.
And my point in saying that with the whole injury scenario is that there's a difference, especially when we talk about business, how this is a business. There's a difference to an investor or to anyone or just to fans between your biggest money woman wrestler, Ronda Rousey, without question, it's her, getting injured in training for a big match or getting injured in a dark match in Milwaukee to Billy Kay. And nothing against Billy Kay or nothing against Milwaukee. But you understand what I'm saying?
Hey,
right, but here's the thing.
Listen,
they could easily explain it off as she got injured in training.
Oh, absolutely. That's true.
But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right, but if you got her out there at WrestleMania and she gets injured, guess what? You already got the payday under your belt.
True.
Yeah. A big payday.
Yeah.
So that's the huge difference between making $25 in popcorn money at the Armory.
And that's the moment you say, hey, by the way, we don't cover your medical bills.
And then making that same $25 you pay for admission on a fucking souvenir cup with the Diet Coke in it.
But Ryan, to your point though, like you're saying, like Milwaukee, if this idea was executable, I would never take her on tour. Because the way NXT works is they always have the group that goes on tour and then the other group that works the smaller Florida loops. She would work the Florida loops every single weekend. She would never wrestle a match outside of the state of Florida until WrestleMania.
That's true.
She would know Fort Pierce, Cocoa, Orlando,
guys,
like the back of her head.
But let's not forget here either. Okay, we're talking about Ronda Rousey, okay?
Right.
We got Ronda Rousey here. So, yeah, she's in front of a mask, and maybe people don't recognize that she's under this mask. But yet, she's essentially living in Florida. You think she's going to fucking 7-Eleven with a lucha mask on her head? At some point, TMZ or somebody else is going to catch this shit.
That is great.
Somebody's going to notice and be like, huh. What were those fucking bees with the gold mask and the black leotards in the 80s?
It was the Killer Bees.
No. In WCW.
I know who
You know who I'm talking about.
I can't think of
anyway.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna say, "Oh, the Lady Executioner."
That was it. Was the Masked Executioners?
Something like that. Someone's gonna say the Lady Executioner,
which was Randy and Bill Mulkey under mask.
Interesting. The Lady Executioner has been wrestling all over in Sarasota and fucking Cocoa Beach. And now, ironically enough, Ronda Rousey was seen over there at the one-stop shop on the corner picking up gummy savers.
And a protein
bar.
Well, you know what?
So TMZ's going to put 2 and 2 together, guys. Let's be realistic here.
I just picture Ronda going into a 7-Eleven with the lucha mask
La
on and a tap-out
Conquistadora.
La Conquistadora. And she does the walk, too, to the ring as well.
To your point before, guys, on when you're
Where's
talking
Tito
about
when you need him?
all these...
Fuck, I forgot Tito. Fuck him. Exactly. Fuck Tito.
All right,
Tito's already been written out.
I'm sorry, that's lazy booking right there.
Yes.
Tito has to
Go,
be
Ryan.
here.
To your point before about how, in the internet age, everyone is able to analyze everything. I'll give you an example. Obviously, I think this was probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now, when the masked diva who ended up being Mickie James showed up on SmackDown. I remember freaking reading there were people doing like body type analyzations and everything.
Yes.
And they were able to figure it out to where La Conquistadora ended up we ended up knowing 3 weeks before, it's Mickey.
I
Mickey
still
James.
believe.
Well,
I'll give them this. I still believe the first appearance of whoever La Conquistadora
It was not.
I do not think
No,
that
it
was
was not.
Mickey James.
No, it
'Cause
wasn't.
the set- when it was actually Mickey, the person looked totally different.
I think it was Billy Kay because it was
It was
tall and skinny with the long
Clearly
legs.
a different
Well,
person.
not only that, too, the very next week, it was an African American female. So
They
it's
had-
just like,
you're right.
I don't think Mickey
Swerve.
can just change like a chameleon like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Swerve.
yeah.
All right, guys, listen, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. Before we do, Dave Keene says, old school wood, got to live your gimmick.
There
You're
you
right,
go.
brother. Hey, you're right. Walk around, fuck it. I'm gonna go to the laundromat. I'm gonna wash my panties with my lucha mask on. Why not?
Kayfabe will never be broken.
Guys, we're going to take a quick break, 5-minute break. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about this, more Rousey talk. We're going to continue to we're going to go into some early WrestleMania talk, a little deeper than we have. Matty's going to read us out here with some of our sponsors, and we'll see you on the other side. Go ahead, Matty.
All right, well, Lazy Booking brought to you by the Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You give them a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com.
BMW of Atlantic City Studios. Guys, we'll see you on the other side.
everybody? I'm Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a price for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to the Lazy Booking Go. It's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lazy Booking here on A2DRadio.com. We are live from the BMW of Atlantic City Studios and brought to you by the Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs. They are located at 703 Black Horse Pike, England, Door, New Jersey, and you can give them a call at 856-939-2030. Email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com.
There it is. We got to get that slamming. And, guys, I think here in the second half, we're seeing way too many omens here. I didn't realize that I have the headset that says Tom on here. I gotta step out of this.
It's not his current headset, though, so you might be okay, but
Still has the name, though, at the top.
His name is on it.
And then I was drinking a Monster, and I didn't even realize it. Anyway.
You're in his seat with his headset on, drinking a Monster with a laptop open in front of him.
I mean, I think it's official. Open and closed case. Tom, welcome to Lazy Booking here on A2D Radio.
Thanks, Daddy. You guys ready to go? Family talk. Let's do it.
You got way too much hair.
All right. What was the poll question? Whose hairline would you? I have a hairline. There we go.
What was the poll question on this show or on another show?
No, that was on the Twitter or the
the Real
Facebook
Talk
page.
group.
Yeah, that was so
Thinking to myself, I'm like, well, that was our poll question?
How the hell did that poll question come about too? I want to know.
Listen,
that.
if you aren't in the Real Talk group, get in it because there's some good stuff that's been going in there too, guys.
It's an anonymous A2D employee who will remain anonymous.
But back to let's hit the poll question again this week, guys, from Scanzano Sports, ScanzanoSports.com. What is your reaction to Ronda Rousey's arrival in WWE? I'm jumping out of my seat. She took away from Asuka's moment. Who cares? She's already lost all credibility, and I'll wait and see how this plays out. We had a lot of hot talk about it in the first half of the show. I think I'm on a wait-and-see basis. Mm-hmm. You're on the wait-and-see basis. Ryan's on the wait-and-see basis.
Yes, sir.
Maddie's on the...
I'm on the wait-and-see. I was going to say taking away from Asuka's moment, but you know what? Asuka's so much of a hypnotic figure, it doesn't really.
Yeah, and they teased it.
Hypnotic figure. Wow. Sinsudi dropping the $5 words tonight. Look out. Here we go.
Listen, he's not that far-fetched. I love me some Asuka. I
got to throw this in here, though, because it is lazy booking what they did. I don't like how they booked the ending of that Women's Royal Rumble at all. At all.
Coming down to Nikki and Asuka?
Yes. Honestly, did anyone think Nikki Bella was going to win that?
No.
No, but, I mean, I don't think anybody believed that Asuka was not going to win that match at that point when Ronda was out.
Well, that's my point.
They had gotten rid of Nia. I think it was pretty clear.
Well, that's exactly my point, to where there's nothing worse at an ending of a Royal Rumble match when you know who the winner's going to be. Like, at the end, for example, to compare it to the men's, like, there was still some suspense, like, oh, God, are they going to give it to Roman again, or are they going to give it to their correct guy, to where you go back, and I believe, Matty, you had the same we both had Nia winning, correct?
Yeah, we did.
Like, for example, and you guys correctly said that, it's probably just going to be a group of women that just throw over the top rope, which I still say to this day.
The Andre the Giant theory.
Yes, and I think is absolute lazy booking, because, like, it works in spots, but, like, for example, you could have had zero chance of having Nia winning, but if you just would have had Nia Jax and Asuka as the final two, at least there's some suspense.
But,
you know what I mean?
But here's the thing. I think with it being the first, they wanted to have someone who is a legacy star put her over, and someone who still is a very prominent figure with the company. I think that Nikki deserved that spot. Secondly, the story, Asuka winning was story one. There was big things coming after. So if you don't have that quote-unquote huge surprise at the end where, I didn't think this was going to happen, like you talk about like Luger and Bret Hart back in the day and different things, and Michaels with the 1 foot. okay, that's fine
Now,
because they were bringing something huge to the table
see,
after.
let me tell you where I would have gone with it. The first two entrants were Sasha and Becky Lynch. I would have had one of them ride it all the way out to the end. So then you're telling the story of, could one of these two conceivably, enter at 1 or enter at 2 and ride the whole thing out and win, and you could do the exact same finish and have Asuka win with the exact same move and everything. And then if it's Becky then goes back to SmackDown with a storyline that she rode the entire Rumble only to have that heartbreaking loss.
Right.
And if it's Sasha, you then have a ready-made feud for Asuka to get her through to WrestleMania.
Well, that actually was kind of what they were doing, because the very following night on Raw, they had Asuka come out and they had her do her big shebang that, yes, she won the first Women's Rumble. Then Sasha came out and said, I lasted the longest in the Rumble.
Right, but does that not have way more impact on Monday if Sasha's like the last one eliminated on Sunday night?
I agree, yeah.
David Keane makes a good point. Dave Keane, he says nobody believed Maven would beat Undertaker either. When he threw him out.
True.
Let's not get caught up on the exact end of the match, because a lot of the great storylines that happen with the Rumble is things that happen in the middle of the match or in the beginning of the match.
Of course.
There's been other Royal Rumble matches where the end's been clear and you know who's going to win it.
Right.
It's the other things that happen throughout the match. What was it? Naomi's spot. Was it Naomi?
Well, that was a total knockoff of the Kofi Kingston stuff. But, yeah, it was great.
But you take somebody athletic. That was something great. But we know Kofi can do it. To see a woman be able to athletically pull off those kinds of crazy spots, again, it's something we haven't seen yet.
I thought one of the best spots in that Women's Rumble was when you had Trish and Mickey in there at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yes, that
100%.
was great, and they had that stare down.
And let's not forget, part of the intrigue of this match and the surprises were the actual surprises of who showed up, the matchups of Legacy versus the current women right now. So I just didn't get caught up in the end. And I truly believe that Nikki has done enough for that company and over the years has worked so hard to improve in the ring, because anything Bella's was a botch fest for years. Mm-hmm. And you could tell, and when they started getting tied up with Cena and with Daniel Bryan, especially Nikki, really picked up and really worked hard to hone her craft much better.
Absolutely.
I have absolutely no problem with her. And really, Nikki's been the torch carrier for the last probably 5 or 6 years consistently. That's a passing of the torch in a lot of ways.
To kind of piggyback off what we were talking about, some of the better moments coming in later in the match, we could go back to the men's Rumble, too, where one of the funniest running gags the whole time was Heath Slater. He kept getting knocked down by everybody that came in.
Awesome.
And Big E stuffed a pancake in his mouth before he jumped into the ring, which that was a funny little neat gag that they did there in that match.
Yeah, because when Big E came out, you were like, Is Big E going to take a shot? No, and then he just stuffed the pancake in. It's like, yes, that's how you book it, Ryan.
Listen, I don't disagree with pretty much anything you said about, there was a lot of great storylines within the women's Royal Rumble. And I don't, just because I don't like the ending, it doesn't mean I don't look at the entire match sour. My main gripe with it is that I understand what you're saying. It's that, they're probably giving Nikki the spotlight because she was so important, not only in the ring the last few years, but in a business sense. To me, the whole storyline, if they're going in that direction, of the spot where she turns on Brie and she eliminates it, it's kind of, that to me is like, did they really put those two together at the end of the match to try and make a storyline for Total Bellas? Like, to me, like, that's where I'm kind of like, for real. For real.
But like Chrome said, it's business.
Well, that's my point. That's exactly my point.
It's a business.
So, like I said, I don't have a huge gripe with it. My whole point is the one major gripe I've had with a lot of Royal Rumbles is suspense, and that just didn't have it. But other than that, like, there's really nothing else I can really pick apart.
Now, I like what you're saying, because to me, they could do that same spot with Nikki and Brie and have Nikki eliminate Brie, and then have Sasha just go eliminate Nikki immediately thereafter.
No.
And go to what we had talked about earlier.
No.
Fine, you could say no.
Well, why no? Why no?
The name of the station is agree to disagree.
Because I can't.
You know what?
To put Sasha Banks in
you don't
another
know everything.
spot.
You don't know everything.
But to put
you
Sasha
may have his
Banks-
headset on, but you don't know everything.
No, because
Fine,
to put Sasha
then
Banks
take
in
Becky.
another spot like
Then
that
take
she
Becky.
doesn't deserve.
Then-
Right,
then
I would,
take Becky.
I would be better
That's
with that.
fine.
But Sasha Banks, and listen, that's the poor booking. Is yet again Sasha Banks is put
All
in
right,
a spot
fine.
she doesn't deserve.
Then take Sasha out of the scenario and put Becky in.
I'm fine with
because,
that. I would
because
be
Becky
better.
came in at number one anyway.
I would be better with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chrome, Mike is not saying bring up this whole entire scenario for the sake of Sasha. He's saying literally
No, I know what
someone
he's
that's
saying.
wrestling every day.
Right.
I know
Someone that's
what
there,
he's
not someone that's
saying.
been away for a year.
Well,
I get it.
not just that, but also someone that could actually take the fact that they made it that deep into the Rumble and move it into a storyline, because now we don't see Nikki again until WrestleMania.
No, and I agree.
That's my point.
And I know, and I agree with you. But what I'm saying, so
But I hear you on
Becky,
Sasha. I
Becky
hear
would
you.
be better because Sasha's turning into the Roman Reigns where they're just
yeah.
jamming her down everybody's throat.
Right.
And I mean, to me, Roman's at this point has earned it a lot more than she
Oh,
has.
no question.
But I agree.
Roman is actually in the process of getting over again.
Yeah,
Yes.
Becky would have been better. I get what you're saying, but whether you're speaking hypothetically, when Sasha's name's thrown out there, I'm like, no,
All
no
right.
more
All
Sasha.
right, I take it back.
No,
I
no
take
more
it
Sasha.
all back. I take it all back. It's Becky. It's 100% Becky.
I'm with you. There.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Okay, so
I feel better now.
All right. While you
was
guys,
a- it was a good
guys
point. I
take
got
a
you.
deep breath and relax. we have some comments here on the YouTube, and it's coming from Mr. Todd Womack
Yo,
saying,
Todd.
What's up, Todd?
saying Philly Dilly guys.
What's
He also
up?
goes on to say, do you think it will be a triple threat for the women's title? And we'll start off with that one because he has several comments here that we can go off and have a 30-minute conversation about.
Do I think? I don't think so, but I don't know. To be honest,
I don't think so.
I'm leaning more like I think I'm like 65 to 70% saying no, but they have done a lot to give you at least an inkling or belief that Nia could squeeze into that spot, and then that way you can kind of have Asuka in the main event and have Alexa and Nia and finally package that up.
If we're going that route, then would you say that they shoehorn a BS finish into their match at Elimination Chamber? So that way neither one lost, but neither one won. So that way you have no choice but to do a triple threat. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't know.
It's tough. Like, how do you dusty finish an Elimination Chamber?
It's tough.
It's tough.
It's not the Elimination Chamber match. It's just a singles match, so anything can really happen.
I thought you were talking about the actual.
No,
Elimination
not the
match.
Elimination Chamber, because Alexa's going to retain their title. But the thing is the Nia versus Asuka match, because if Nia wins, it becomes a triple threat. I could see them probably trying to do a little BS finish and say, okay, we're just going to do some DQ crap, and we're just going to have it be where Asuka didn't lose, Nia didn't win, but she didn't lose either. So there you go. Triple threat match. There's your excuse. There's your out. And Alexa defends her title in a triple threat match.
Well, here you go. If you're looking for an opportunity for Ronda, maybe Ronda interferes in that match, and the match gets thrown out, and then it becomes a triple threat for WrestleMania.
Or how about this? How about given, like you said, Matty, if Nia wins, it becomes a triple threat, correct?
Yes.
So, say, for example, Ronda loses. And then you find out the next night, okay, Asuka's going to face Charlotte. Well, then, you know what happens with Alexa? She comes out to the ring, and she's all happy because, oh, my God, I could just take WrestleMania off. Asuka's not going to – she's facing Charlotte. I'm fine. And then Nia Jax's music hits, and then it kind of like, oh, but I thought you were my best friend, and that's where that begins.
Well, but here's a question, because I hear what you're saying, and the only thing that I even hesitate on with that, and I'll look to all you guys too, is, I mean, if Asuka's going to lose, doesn't it have to be like at a major show to a major player?
Well, here's the thing, though. They did this in February last year. They did it to Charlotte, where Charlotte was undefeated at pay-per-view matches, and then they just had, I believe, Sasha came out and interrupted the match.
Right, but
and
I mean,
then Bayley won.
Right, but there's a difference between being undefeated in pay-per-view matches versus Asuka hasn't lost a match since she signed with the company.
True, but I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there because WWE's done bad booking decisions. Because when you think about it, wouldn't you rather have Charlotte lose her undefeated streak at a pay-per-view at a WrestleMania to make it a little bit more of a bigger pop for the victory? But that's just
you would think.
On that point, Mike, I don't think Asuka's losing for a long time. I'm serious.
Well, then
I don't.
Then she's not going to be in there with Ronda.
I truly believe that she's gonna go undefeated at least until Survivor Series.
Well, to speak more on the Ronda situation, Todd also threw in, I think Ronda will do the horsewomen tag match.
I think you guys alluded to it earlier. I think that's kind of a lock-in for Survivor Series at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, and Bayley against.
See, I said a little bit differently though, because I think if Ronda wins the title, you are getting Asuka and Ronda the title holder,
and that's fair.
But that's a great idea though. That could be a possibility for Survivor Series, and
the horsewomen versus horsewomen.
The seed's been planted for 1.5 to 2 years. Rob Provia says, "What up, boys? I'm late to the party. In response to the poll, I'd say she took away from Asuka's moment. WWE should have had her as number 30 instead." We kind of touched on that.
A little bit.
I
think she's not ready yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. Though. It makes
simple.
sense when you think about it, because you're going to throw her in the ring. She's never wrestled a day in her life.
Yeah, and
that's not going to end well.
No, you're right. And first time in the ring, you're throwing her in, which essentially is chaos. That's a tough task.
No matter
at that
who's
point.
working with her.
Yeah.
And to the point that you guys made earlier, by them having her just come out, they can play it out longer.
Yeah,
They can make it, now she's going to make an appearance at the next one. Oh, she'll wrestle at the next one, to where if she just shows up, wrestles, it's kind of like, okay, well, we see this now. You can't do all the other stuff.
Well, in a different way, it's what I miss about 80s and 90s is before Bischoff, to me, saturated it and watered down what was actual stories having time to develop by forcing 12 pay-per-views. You used to have where Hogan and Andre, okay, now they're doing this. Now they would tease it before Royal Rumble. Then that first Rumble happened, and they had the official contract signing.
Right.
And then you had WrestleMania come up. And you could build these things for 3 months and 4 months and just tease and then build the anticipation. There's so much content now, it's difficult to do that. So by doing what Ryan just mentioned, it's an off way of being able to do it in today's kind of climate of professional wrestling.
And the other thing that they could do along with that is they could take it back to the old school where they could shoot vignettes of her training at the Performance Center, and every couple weeks drop a vignette that plays a couple times on Raw and SmackDown, just to remind everyone that, she's there and she's getting ready, and you'll see her when you see her.
It develops that big fight atmosphere.
Listen, they could do it almost, absolutely. They could do it almost like, and obviously it's going to have a different tone, but they could do it like when Brett and Shawn face each other at 12, and they showed all their different workouts.
Right.
Even if, let's say she faces Charlotte, right? You could have Charlotte knows this is going to be a big challenge. You could show, and Charlotte is a freaking workout junkie.
Right.
So you could have and cut those different videos and promos that you can release on WWE.com and that you could show during Raw and during SmackDown to where they're working out and they're getting prepared for whatever this fight's going to be. I think it's a genius way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, so here's a question then, and
you're showing her working hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot, in the coming weeks and months up until, leading up until WrestleMania. But at this moment, how would you book Ronda? Who would you have her face off against? How would you do
Mania?
it? Yeah, at Mania. Correct. Who would you three? How would you do it?
If I'll go first. If you can make the tag match happen.
Sasha Banks.
I saw the smirk on your
Squash
face.
that
He's going to say it. He's going to say it.
Well, good. If it's a squash match, I'm totally fine with that. Absolutely.
There you go. You want to get rid of Sasha? You have Ronda Rousey squash her in about 2 minutes.
I would love that.
Seriously, let's go back to serious thing.
Me, it's the tag match, the mixed tag match, and I mean it's been that again. You talk about seeds planted; they planted the seeds at 31. It's been a long time coming. And if it's not Dwayne, I like that spot for Braun because they've already have that ready-made seed planted from Survivor Series. It makes sense. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. And Braun's on Raw, and she's going to be on Raw, so they work as far as a fit with the brand. I like that better than Miz and Braun. It's not that I don't think that the build-up to that would be entertaining. I just can't believe that Miz is going to have a competitive chance against Braun.
And here's the thing, too, is I think that if they do go with the mixed tag, obviously she's getting the win over Stephanie, and it doesn't seem far-fetched because Stephanie's not a full-time wrestler.
Right. Nobody's going to be like, oh, my God, I can't believe they put Ronda over Stephanie. Absolutely. Great point.
That does make it a little bit safer. And also a little bit more common sense when you think about it, just because you're bringing her in for her very first match, too, to go along with it. They're not going to try anything spectacular when Steph's in the ring.
Well, that and who – I mean, realistically, who in the company controls the crowd while they're in the ring better than Triple H?
Yeah.
Stephanie and Triple H do it so well because they're so hated. It's just too easy.
They're like it's the biggest love-hate relationship
But
for them.
I
love them.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone better at Triple H than going into the ring and saying, "I'm the babyface tonight," and being able to work babyface and getting the entire crowd on his side, and literally the next night going into the ring and saying, "Well, I'm the heel tonight," and working heel and getting the exact opposite reaction.
That's a great point. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, here's a little something Todd actually said to respond to what David Rosca said about Trish Stratus versus Mandy Rose. Says, David, that's your dream match with you as the special referee.
That might be his dream match with him as the canvas.
Yeah.
The one thing
I was gonna say, how would you book it, Ryan?
Well, I would go tag match, given that I think when you talk about big business, it would be the best. And it also, I would say on paper, it would be the safest match for Ronda to not be exposed. But this is the one thing I kind of worry about, though. When we talked last segment about, the likes of Charlotte, Becky, maybe Asuka could make Ronda look really good. Well, Stephanie McMahon's not going to be able to do that. And it's kind of like Ronda's going to have to almost be in the position to make Stephanie look good.
Well, here's the thing, though. And yes, I know he doesn't wrestle full-time anymore, but I would have to think it's like riding a bike in a way for him. You can have Rock and Triple H, if they're going to do that, they can have them work a good portion of the match
100%.
and just build up Ronda.
100%. But I'm just worried just because this is how some wrestling fans are. If for the next couple months up until Mania, they're going to be promoting Ronda's first match is here, and she only has one spot, people are going to be like, oh, that was anticlimactic.
And I understand the concern. The rebuttal I would have with that is I think Stephanie deserves a little more credit than maybe you're giving her because
She can work.
Listen, Brie Bella, as better as she's gotten, is definitely not the better Bella twin. Match that Brie and Stephanie had at SummerSlam was really good.
That's true.
And I think Stephanie did a lot of the work in that match. So
I think she's one of those people that works up to the level of her opponent, or at least tries to.
Right.
So I'm on board with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I guess
I totally understand that
Well,
concern.
I actually, now that you bring it up, because that kind of I completely forgot about that situation because I guess the thing that triggered my initial concern was the last time that Stephanie and Ronda were in the ring, to where it was kind of like that was kind of, and I don't know, I'm sure it was last minute and they kind of threw it together, but that's implanted in the back of my head.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Kristen Gideon, we were talking about the workout videos or doing that as a
vignettes
build-up,
and stuff,
the
right.
vignettes, right? She says, I believe they actually did that for Brock and Rock working out before the SummerSlam 2002.
They did.
So they used that, and that was a great way to build that match as far as older, younger guy, the next big thing coming in,
and it was very effective. And they only had a month to build that up. They did not build that up at all until August was about to roll
that was a
around.
great way to do it, too.
Well, let me throw you guys into the Wayback Machine for a minute because there is some precedent for this. It's not a true apples-to-apples comparison.
Right.
But a mainstream athlete that gets into the ring and you have no idea how it's going to shake out, and it turns out way better than expected.
And I think I know
Lawrence
what you mean.
Taylor,
WrestleMania 11, yep.
That turned out to be a pretty damn good match.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Now, granted, Lawrence Taylor, world-class athlete, but Ronda Rousey's no slouch.
Right.
No.
So
No, and with that too, I think Lawrence Taylor, he blew up in that match too. He was gassed, but they still ended up putting on
a damn good show.
Bam Bam did a lot of work.
Oh yeah, I mean you couldn't have put him with a better worker than Bam Bam Bigelow at that point in time.
Right.
Well, here's kind of taking it more recent. I know it's not in WWE, but in Impact Wrestling, I guess they're calling it, the former running back on the Steelers.
Oh, D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah, I mean. That's another. I'm not expecting shooting star presses into a table, but it's still. I mean, that's another example.
Yeah, well, D'Angelo, to his credit, is a hardcore wrestling fan. He loves wrestling, and he has studied the game. I've read since he's not officially retired, but I've read that's something that he might be interested in getting into.
Well, so is Ronda. I mean, she said numerous times she's been a hardcore wrestling fan. So I mean, she said in that interview with ESPN 5 minutes after she showed up, she said, I've been studying this thing for years. Even when I was in my prime, I've been watching.
I believe,
as long as D'Angelo Williams doesn't turn into the next Monty Brown.
Oh, God.
So you and I gave our booking scenarios. Mike, Matty, how about you guys?
You want to go first?
No, go ahead, man.
Right.
I need to think on this for a minute.
For me, see, I like the big fight atmosphere because and this is back in the 90s, but Paul Heyman did one of the greatest things ever. And yes, he didn't have 12 pay-per-views. ECW, he built up the grudge match of the century. Sabu and Taz. You want to know how he did it? They never fought each other. They never had a brawl. They never had nothing. All they did was promo. That's all they did was hammer promo down your throat. And Taz mostly leading the way on the promo side of things, to the point where when they met at Barely Legal, they tore the house down.
I love Taz's promo on that. Sabu, I'm going to choke you out. That was the whole promo with the freaking towel over his face. It was great.
But wasn't there – and I don't know how accurate this is because this goes way back now, but wasn't that rooted in Taz was still working as the Tasmaniac? Wasn't he the one that quote unquote broke Sabu's neck?
Yes.
Okay, so there was an incident somewhere,
but it was way before that.
Right. But that they could point back to as the origin of the whole thing. So, if you're working under that same theory, you then have to build on the whole thing where, Ronda put Steph in the armbar.
Right. You got two choices.
So I mean,
if you're going to build off that theory, it's Charlotte or Stephanie, and I think Stephanie's more logical.
But when you go with that route, though, more like just the atmosphere of it. That big fight, it's coming. They don't have any interaction. You don't see anything crazy, but you are anticipating it. And when it comes to WrestleMania, it gets to that point where Ronda didn't need to do anything. She could just train and focus and get herself ready. Whoever she is working with can do the exact same thing. And then you have the match at WrestleMania. And you can do the workout videos. You can build up the promo. If Ronda can't talk, you can easily have somebody who's heel easily just cut promos on Ronda.
Well, let me drop something else into this mix because his name has been mentioned a couple times tonight. And I think we've kind of shied away from it. But now the more I think about it, the more it might actually make sense. If they're going to go the mixed tag route with Stephanie and Triple H, why not have Rousey teamed up with Kurt Angle?
Yeah, and that was an option absolutely. Yeah, and I didn't thought of that until Ryan said that earlier. I think it's a good
Did you say that earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
my bad.
That's how I would book it.
Okay.
You know what?
I would book it Angle and Rousey.
I thought you were on the Rock train.
No,
Okay.
Angle Rousey.
But even that makes sense because when you think about it, Angle could be almost like her mentor. Because they could easily play that up on camera.
Angle could legitimately train her going into that.
Well, yeah, you get my point, though. Yeah, that's
you.
the mentor-student
But
there.
it plays out a couple of different ways, though. Because you have the student-mentor thing. You have her going against her boss in Stephanie. And then you have this match that everyone has thought for months that they may see of Angle and Triple H. And you get it all wrapped up in one tight little box.
Right.
So,
well, and taking things to real life situations, obviously, what's the one thing that Ronda has always said has kind of not scarred her, but the one thing she's always wanted to get that she never could? The Olympic gold medal.
There you go.
Who has the Olympic gold medal?
Angle.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
That is true.
I like it, Ryan. I like how you think, man.
So we got other Other comments from Todd. He's saying that Sasha needs to go ahead and turn heel. I agree 100%, but they keep not pulling the trigger on it. David Rosca saying Mandy Rose will walk out as next new Raw Women's Champion. Nick Becker responds with that with a lull.
You know what? David Rosca, inbox me your address because I just want to send you every piece of Mandy Rose, anything I can find.
Next up, Todd Womack again saying Braun needs to go one-on-one versus Brock and get the belt at WrestleMania.
It's not going to happen. It's going to be Roman and Brock. There's no question in my mind. I think I'm kind of past the whole Braun Brock thing at this point.
But here's the thing, though. I think, and we've talked about this on previous shows, like Braun doesn't need a belt to be over.
No, he doesn't.
So
doesn't. Look at Raw this week.
So why put it on him?
Right. I mean, we talked about Raw this week. We were talking about what are things to take away, and I'll just touch on. I mean, obviously the Finn Seth thing getting added to the Elimination Chamber. First time you're gonna have 7 men.
Hate it.
It is what it is. It's
But
cool.
it is what it
They're
is.
trying to do something different. And what I do like is they're putting both men back in the spotlight,
Which is fine, and I
think both men need that.
And I'm okay with. I mean, I have to assume that the Elimination Chamber will start with a triple threat match with 3 men in the ring and 4 guys in pods.
I think logistically they have to.
Well, I mean, it's got to. Yeah. Well, Miz has to go in at number 1. So is it? Does Miz start?
Well,
and then
maybe against them too.
Maybe they just put the pod in the middle of the ring, so that way
shark cage. No, shark cage. Hanging from the top, and it just drop it down when it's time for that guy to come in.
Does anyone else? Does anyone else think they created that or had the 7-man to just throw Seth a bone, given that everything literally has burst into flames around him the last year?
Well, I think what we
no
talked about, and we were gonna mention some injuries, major injuries. Samoa Joe at WrestleMania, Dean Ambrose, because there was rumors that you may get the Shield match, or you may get Dean and Seth, and now you have Jason Jordan getting hurt, because then it was you might get the Seth and Jason Jordan match. Listen, I think Seth deserves this spot. I feel like he's been underutilized, and again, I don't think either man could. Not that they couldn't take the loss, but it's tough to have these guys keep missing out. So having him and Finn and putting him, I absolutely agree. Even if it's a bone, just to put him back into the conversation of a main event spot was good.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's a tough pill.
It's possible though.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it was a tough pill to swallow to have him be, the tag champ. Well, even going further back in the Shield. Situation. I'm sure they had big plans for months and months and months. Then they're like, okay, we'll give you the belts to kind of take the load off of this stuff to make it seem like we don't completely fall off with you here. Then Dean goes down, Jason Jordan goes down, and it's kind of like, do we leave this guy off of a pay-per-view? Stick him in for 20 minutes, have him take the second fall, and, just have him make an appearance as a singles guy.
And speaking of, go ahead.
I was going to say the one thing that I would like to see come out of this, though, if Finn Balor doesn't win, which I don't think he's going to,
right.
I think somewhere along the way there needs to be a shift in Balor Club where Gallows and Anderson lose the whole nerdometer and the comedy aspect of it, and they start to get pissed off at the fact that they're jobbing constantly. And Finn gets pissed off at the fact that every time he thinks he's right there, he doesn't get there.
I think a heel turn is in the books for him at some point.
But I don't even know if it needs to be a full-fledged heel turn. And I hear you, and I don't disagree. But I think short term, I don't necessarily think it needs to be a full-fledged heel turn, but I think you need to see the Balor Club become a lot more aggressive, no-nonsense, heel-ish, bordering maybe on tweener to try to bring back some degree of legitimacy to the 3 guys that are part of that group. And then when the superstar shakeup happens, I'm all about adding Becky to that group as the female member of the Balor Club.
Could be.
And seeing how that dynamic plays out.
Do you think that maybe if they do that superstar shakeup, maybe they also shift AJ there and they try to battle for control over it at some point down the line?
I don't know that they put AJ in that spot.
I don't think
I think
AJ
AJ's too much money to be mixed up with Balor Club right now.
It didn't work the first time they did it.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
we've already
they
seen
kind of
it
botched it though when they brought that in.
I just don't think it was a fit for AJ though. I think what ended up happening, it was good to see it for a few months or whatever, but I think the way AJ's kind of evolution happened was absolutely perfect. And listen, I don't like to say anyone's above anything, but he is so far and beyond worrying about being the leader of a stable now. He's carrying a show.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Let's be real.
But I mean, even if you look at when he was the quote unquote leader of Bullet Club in New Japan, he was only the leader because he was the IWGP champion.
Right.
Carl Anderson, for all intents and purposes, was the leader of the Bullet Club.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Anderson needs to get back to that aggressive mouthpiece because, I mean, the Bullet Club originally was Balor and Anderson.
Originally,
so,
yeah. The original
stable. if they take it back to its roots and work it from there, because if not, I think you're going to see the three of those guys just run into a brick wall.
I do believe that they're starting to shift characters in the right direction. Sami Zayn drastically needed a change.
Agreed.
And it's very evident to me. Kevin Owens, as awesome as he is, and I still am entertained by him, to get him back to that next level, he needs some kind of a shift in his character, but something where he can maintain his style of what he does with promos and digs at guys.
Well,
turning him face and now battling the unexpected that I don't think anybody would have seen, where Sami Zayn's the heel and Kevin Owens is the face.
Even
it refreshes that.
Even to jump off of what Mike said, he could even be a tweener. Owens could be. You know, like not necessarily full blown baby face, because a lot of people may find that hard to like digest. They're like, no, he's not a baby face, he's a heel. But he could be a tweener very easily, where it's just like, yes, he'll dig at anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. Baby face, heel, it don't matter.
My concern with that is you don't want to start turning everybody tweener.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Everybody's a tweener already anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
let's be honest.
No, you're right.
Only reason I say that for him, because he's one of the heels that gets cheered, so it's like it would make sense for him to be. You don't obviously do that to somebody like a Sami Zayn. You'd either turn him full babyface or full heel. Somebody like him, you would do that too. You wouldn't necessarily do that to an Owens if he's getting cheered.
The only tweener that truly works is Chris Jericho.
Yeah, listen,
bottom line.
Kevin Owens in Ring of Honor was a face, and I watched Kevin Owens in Ring of Honor, and it's the same character, but it has a different dynamic as a face, and I think bringing that here in WWE, which we have not seen in his NXT and WWE run, would be huge for him. I think you need to shift him away from that for a while. He'll go back to being a heel at some point.
Yeah, he has
but
to.
Same thing with Finn. I don't think WWE has seen the heel Finn yet, and I think we're getting teases of it. When you see a lot of those selfie videos and stuff that they're doing now, he's taking subtle digs, but he has that big smirk on his face.
Right.
I think for him, he would be more of a tweener candidate for me, but for me personally, I'd like to see him go full blown heel.
Oh, as would I. I just don't know that from a merchandise perspective, I don't know that they do it.
I hear what you're saying, but I think especially they see how hot Bullet Club stuff is. That Balor Club stuff's going to sell regardless. NWO were heels and sold the shit out of merchandise.
I mean, to be honest with you,
but that's because the NWO logo was freaking awesome.
It was fucking great. It was amazing.
Well, with that being said, though, I mean, when he was Prince Devitt out in Japan, he was a heel for a good chunk of time.
He was
out there, and he was super over. Eventually,
awesome.
It got to the point where they had no choice but to put him babyface for a period of time.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and he was awesome. I would love to see him in this setting now, but he would be more of a tweener candidate for sure.
So Nick Becker over here chimed in on when you guys were talking about Sami Zayn and Owens. He said, "I have a feeling that Zayn is going to turn on Kevin at Fastlane."
Oh, I think it's coming up, absolutely, for sure. I think that
the El Generico.
Well, yeah,
the El Generico turn.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you saw
rewind the calendar 12 years.
Well, you could see the teasing of that, right? So you saw when Kevin Owens lost, and right before Sami goes out, and he's like, "Listen, I know I lost, but like you can't let us down." And he's like, "I can't let us down.
Right?
You already let us down." And it was kind of like Kevin looked like a lost little sad puppy there for a minute. And you could see the teasing of that happening.
I got to give them kudos as well to be able to pull off. I mean, Kevin Owens, I'm not going to call it the same storyline, but literally go back 1 year, and Kevin Owens is in the same storyline as far as a best friends type of a thing. And they're able to do it while having mirroring, scenarios. They're able to make it different to where it's not like it's a rehash, the same thing as last year.
But that's been Kevin Owens' career, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
Because it was, Sammy under the mask as El Generico, and then Sammy in NXT, and then Jericho, and now Sammy again.
And speaking of that, happy anniversary to the Festival
of Friendship.
Oh,
it was,
right.
Wow.
I believe it was the 1 year anniversary.
1 year ago,
1 year ago, either 2 days ago, I think.
Tuesday,
it was.
God,
Tuesday.
that's still a shame.
Listen,
I still shed a tear for that
to
moment.
me, one of
Still the best angle of the last 5 years.
It was one of
God,
the
when they
best,
broke them up.
hands down, since the inception of Raw. One of the absolutely best executed segments. I would put that up there with the. This Is Your Life Rock.
Oh, yeah.
segment.
Oh yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's close. So no, I absolutely agree with that.
So
And I think that what Dave Keane says here, real quick earlier, we were talking about Ronda and Kurt Angle. He says, boom, 2 Olympic athletes.
well,
There you go.
Todd
Olympic
Womack,
season. It's Olympic season too, guys.
That's true. And Todd Womack had an emoji of a kind of face going on, basically saying like, "I second the Angle works the best," and I'm going to assume what he meant with Brodo on Kurt Angle.
Brodo's bringing the fire tonight.
with
Well, I just think it's we kind of talked about this like a month ago with Rock trying to get him back. And I mean, good Lord, I mean, we talked about he could end up running for president in a couple of years. And obviously he doesn't stop with the movies. I mean, he's got his production company to where, listen, if he came back, if The Rock is on my screen, I watch. And I'm not going to complain.
He's still shooting Ballers, too. So,
Exactly.
which, by the way, is a phenomenal show.
That's
Yes.
absolutely phenomenal.
I just look at it as if they really want to cement this and they want to take some time to where they're not a month out, they're still thinking, oh, do we have Rock? Do we have Rock? You already have Kurt. There's so many ways they can go with it. They already put the seeds into the whole Angle Triple H thing. Honestly, Angle, Stephanie, and Triple H thing, they all had issues in the past. Not only in this stint, but literally before Kurt went away.
Yeah.
Right.
So if they want to do it right, take their time with it, I think it's a perfect way to do it. Angle and Ronda versus H and Steph.
Well, the Todd Womack also said if they go mixed tag, then they have to get The Rock. It'll be more believable than Braun.
I just, I just don't know how they would tie Braun and Ronda together, other than
Common enemies, that's it.
Right.
That's the only way you could go
right.
is common enemies.
And so, I mean, as far as a backstory with that, you could execute it better with a Kurt Angle or with a Rock. So I agree with that. I still wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd like that better than Miz and Braun.
Well, Todd goes on to say that I just want Braun to have a big match at WrestleMania. He deserves that for the year he has had. Plus, I love his new quote, "You get these hands."
You get these hands.
He's been hanging out in the hood.
Listen, dude. When he pulled out that fucking bass and pulled that shit, and he starts strumming it, and it just ripped all the strings off.
That was so
it's like,
great.
well, I guess that's on. And I didn't think he was actually going to hit him over the back with it.
See, I think that was a botch.
Yeah, me too.
I think he was actually supposed to strum it a little bit
The strings,
and sing
you're saying.
and sing along because, you heard when he started singing, like, holy shit, like, this guy's got a great voice.
He does.
And I actually thought that he was supposed to strum it a little bit and sing a couple more lines. And when the first time he strums, the gimmick bass, he breaks the whole thing. Then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I'm not playing this, so now we're going spoken word. but he pulls it off flawlessly. And then makes the bass look like it weighs 300 pounds as he's jacking it over Elias. How about giving a little credit to Elias, though?
I love
Talk
Elias.
about a guy who couldn't get over at all in NXT, who's absolutely over on the main roster.
Elias is one of the rare cases of a guy who, with a gimmick that whether it's the Independents or NXT, it just didn't come across. And it has hit the main roster, and it's just taken off.
Well, that's exactly what Triple H said I believe he was in a shoot interview. I don't know if it was a podcast, but he was interviewed about a month ago, and they asked him about Elias, and he said the Elias storyline is something to where it's built for the main roster. It
Yeah.
really wasn't built for NXT. And they were comparing that to like the Velveteen Dream.
Right.
And that's sort of stuff. So to your point, absolutely. I mean, when he came in as the Drifter, just chilling in the background in some matches, I'm like, this is what we're doing every week.
Yeah.
So taking it
That's
full
what he
circle.
did in NXT,
well,
yeah.
exactly. And to where he is now, to where I'm actually excited. I'm like, oh, cool. Elias is singing a
love
song
it.
right now.
And what does WWE stand for, guys?
Walk with Elias.
I said WWE stands for
Walk with Elias. No, I love and he's a good worker.
You know what
He's
would,
got a great look and he's a good worker.
You know what would be like? I'm not going to say a dream match, but would be an absolute mark-out match for me right now. Would be Elias against Damien Sandow.
Oh God. Oh wow. What would we have the Sandow doing an impression or just the regular
No,
Sandow?
just a regular the savior of the masses. Go with the savior of the masses. Sandow.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be interesting. It would be interesting. If it was back then with his, I'm just not into Sandow now.
No, not now. But I mean, I'm talking.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. But I'm not talking like
No, I know.
I'm not talking the Impact version. I'm
No,
talking like what he was in WWE before he became Mizdow
Right.
and whatnot.
I'll tell you someone that I think would be very entertaining in a match and obviously promo that's still working for the company. That's Kevin Owens. Elias and Kevin Owens, a promo, that would be – like, because Kevin Owens calling him an idiot for singing a song. Like, is that all you do? All you do is sing?
That's
I
great.
agree with you, Ryan. I actually think that if I was to book him against one guy that I would really like to see what the mic work would come off of that, it's probably Kevin Owens.
I don't know. Like, what if they? I know he's with New Japan now, but what if Chris Jericho was to?
He's not with New Japan. He's a free agent.
He's
But
Chris
just
Jericho.
Just saying though, like that
He's
would be
paid
kind
for
of fun.
dates, that's about it.
If we're talking about that, then mic work wise, oh my God, do you imagine Chris Jericho and Elias going back and forth on the acoustic? That would be hilarious.
We saw a preview of it at the 25th
Yeah.
anniversary, and that was phenomenal. So if played out in 5 minutes, oh, Lord.
Well, what about Broken Matt Hardy? You use this instrument of destruction against your opponents, but you have not gone into the world of the broken universe.
Listen, words can't describe how much I get a kick out of when, like, the Matt Hardy broken Twitter or woken Twitter, excuse me, when he, like, chimes in on, like, real issues in, like, society, but he still speaks in code. I'm like, but somehow he makes more sense than real people. I'm like, yeah, I agree.
Look, the best thing ever, though, is the love affair between whoever runs Wendy's Twitter and Matt Hardy. It's absolutely the best thing ever.
Absolutely. Oh.
That's great.
We got 3 minutes, guys.
All right.
Get through some of those comments
sure.
there. I'm through on Facebook.
David
so.
Roska chiming in. He says, I'm sorry if I keep saying about Mandy Rose. I've been a fan since 2015 when she was on Tough Enough, and 14 years ago today, Eddie Guerrero won his first WWE title at No Way Out against Brock Lesnar.
Yes, that's going to transition. David, that's actually going to transition into the final segment. What I do want to say real quick about that NXT or that Tough Enough that I wanted to say earlier and we kind of got off track. You look at that and people trashed that Tough Enough. And the concept of how it was carried out was awful. Let's be honest. But look at all the talent.
The talent that came out of that?
has come out of it. You're talking about not even just WWE. You're talking about Laurel Van Ness and different talent who she's looking like she's going to end up be back in WWE later this year. Lots of talent. But one thing we wanted to start going forward, we're going to do it earlier in the show. We're wrapping it up. And I'm glad you brought up the Eddie Guerrero point there because we're going to start doing this date in wrestling history. So I did look up a few things today, and actually today had quite a few things that went down in wrestling history. So he is correct. The Eddie Guerrero title win at No Way Out, which was an awful pay-per-view, by the way. But that match was great. It was a great moment against the next big thing, Brock Lesnar.
No Way Out had a habit of being a crappy paper.
1999, The Rock beats Mankind to win the WWE Championship in a ladder match on Raw. Eddie Guerrero. Edge proposes to Vicky Guerrero on SmackDown in 2008.
I forgot all about that.
29 years ago today. I'm going to read it as I saw it. WWF tapes the 5th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. What was notable about that was that it was they were providing the backdrop for WrestleMania 2. This was the debut of the music video, Hulk Hogan's Real American.
Oh,
with the guitar.
Interesting.
That was the anniversary of that.
Oh, wow.
So that's just a few things I had here. Oh, and then also this is the anniversary of when Edge was stripped of the title.
Oh.
Vicky Guerrero gave Dolph Ziggler the title, and then Edge won it back later on SmackDown.
Killing Dolph Ziggler's career in one single night.
Mm-hmm.
And then one last comment we have on YouTube is I don't think Rock is going to work because Rock got hurt at WrestleMania 31, and his team lost a lot of money, but Kurt and Rousey would kill it.
Yeah. Guys, great show tonight. We had a lot of heat, a lot of great conversation. We're going to continue to bring it to you next week. So make sure that you join us. Matty's going to read us out here with the sponsors, but I want to say thank you to Mike for joining us, Ryan producing another great show, Matty bringing the heat again with the most beautiful hair in the business. Go for it.
It's debatable.
All right, well, Lazy Booking brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants. They're located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. You can give them a call, 215-369-3300. Remember, be ready, be prepared. Have Gibson Mayer.
Guys, we'll see you next week. Join us on Lazy Booking. Have a good week.